So this is what woke me up to the whole scenario of how bad things were on the planet. I had this dream of going up in the Amazon ever since I was really young, and it was something that was just ingrained from all my experiences through school, being on this river, being on the mighty Amazon. Finally got to do it in 2013. My mom had passed the year before. It was kind of an anniversary and kind of a tribute to her that I'd finally get to do this dream that she and I actually talked about. Started heading up the Amazon, got a few hundred miles into the experience, and was just totally devastated. My heart was broken. There was plastic everywhere. Plastic on the beach, plastic in the communities, plastic in front of the churches. Everywhere you went, I saw plastic. And first of all, it was a shock. And second of all, how could it have happened? How could this beautiful, pristine place end up being a plastic wasteland? There is just a global crisis going on of epic proportion, and it's happening right now, and we got to get on board here. We got a major crisis, and we're in the danger zone for extinction. You can't argue about this. It's just fact.
We have now to be really aware of the dangers of what we're doing. And we already know that, of course, the plastic problem in the seas is wreaking appalling damage upon marine life, the extent of which we don't yet fully know.
And I say, how dare us? How dare us to not be more responsible with our management of our own waste? We've got animals in the ocean. 100,000 mammals dying every year. Got 1 million seabirds dying every year. Probably one of the 100 million birds that have died in the last 20 years because of plastic suffocation. It's gotten so bad that the birds, the mother birds, go after the plastic on the beach and feed it to their chicks, thinking it's food.
Right now, we are in the midst of the Earth's 6th mass extinction. One every bit as profound and far-reaching as that which wiped out the dinosaurs.
We've got microplastics in our land, in our sea, and in the air. All that is coming into our bodies. And it was just last year that we found out that human beings actually had microplastics in our bodies. But we've got a situation now where the plastics are so small, it's no longer just about all the trash and litter we see on the beach. It's about the trash and litter that's inside of our bodies. So what happens to the plastic? The plastic that was breaking down in the late 60s and 70s kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and that became microplastics. Those microplastics eventually started interacting with the environment and even getting smaller, and they started entering into the food chain. And the first evidence of that was in 2008. We had the first study that says, wow, plastic is in some of these sea organisms, and that's part of our food chain, so what's gonna happen next? Fast forward to 2018, all these studies start coming out. We've got plastic in our water that we drink in the bottles that were supposed to be healthy. 94% of those bottles have plastic in them. We've got study after study how it's entered into the food chain, not just in the fish in the marine life, but all the way through. It's because it's now in our soil. On top of that, we also have it in the air. And this was something new to me just recently. Well, how did it get in the air? Well, we made plastic clothing, fleece and things that we're taking the recycled plastic, making stuff, good stuff we thought. That was breaking down in the wash, breaking down in the dryer. Now we got plastic fibers, not only in the sewers, but also in the air. Just last year, they found those plastics in fish, in their brain. So those particles had passed through the blood-brain barrier into their central nervous system, and it caused the fish to have erratic behavior. So the big question is, what's going on in our bodies? Are they in our brain already? 2019 was the year we went over the top, we hit the tipping point. Whether we can turn this around, how do you get the plastic out of the air? How do you get it out of the fish? How do you get it out of the soil? We've got a major, major crisis, and we're in the danger zone for extinction.
Young people now are recognizing that their world is what is the future. I'm okay, for the next decade. I'm okay, and all of us here are okay, because we won't face the problems that are coming. But in the problems in another 20, 30 years are really major problems that are going to cause great social unrest and great changes in the way that we live, in what we eat and how we live and so on.
We live in such a wasteful world, the idea of recycling lessens our guilt and gives us a warm glow. As we drag our bins out for collection, it makes us feel like we're helping the environment. But there's a problem. We're being conned.
If plastic was being recycled and it was a valuable commodity, there shouldn't be any plastic around the ground. It shouldn't be on the beaches because it's valuable. It should be recycled. I think 80% of plastic ends up in landfills. About 10% ends up in the ocean, and about 10 or 15% ends up being incinerated. But most of the plastic is not being recycled. In fact, of all the plastic ever made, less than 10% of it has ever been recycled. We do our best, we take this stuff, it goes somewhere, and we never think of it again. And that was really indicative of the whole scenario about recycling. So what I see here is a happy family putting their empty water bottle in a recycling bin, and it seems like everything's perfect. But behind the veil, when you pull back the curtain, this is disaster. Everything about this, the clothing they wear, the diapers, all the things that nobody's paying attention to made out of plastic, not a pretty picture.
So what I want to know is, how can we possibly sacrifice our children's and grandchildren's entire future, let alone the future of all life on this miraculous planet, by not doing what we know is required now?
All these things are now in our face, and we've got to just encourage, with all the resources we have that we can muster, to do everything knowing that this is a crisis. It's a disaster. It's extinction if we don't do anything about it. So for those of you who have the resources, you've accumulated lots of wealth in your life. You have lots of ideas what to do with that wealth and how much joy you can experience and how your generations to come will be able to use all your resources to have a more pleasurable life. But all that goes away unless we don't resolve the problem today. So we have to have a global initiative where countries and municipalities and corporations and private citizens all collaborate in an understanding that we have to take charge of this plastic waste problem, and we take charge by managing it. The global population has the capacity to figure this thing out, and we just have to do it. And it's not complicated, it's trash. Do more than you ever dreamed you could do. Just get on this, get going.